Kamlesh, you can start.
Okay. Okay, namaste everybody. What happened here? Okay. This is Partition 12, making of the Constitution and Nehru's domestic policy. Something has happened that the Zoom has gone. Okay. So, yes. तो Zoom खत्म हो जाता है. All right. So the British, the making of the Constitution and Nehru's...
share your screen presentation.
Yeah.
Click on share screen.
अच्छा. कहाँ जाए? Escape. So share screen करें. Okay. अब बात बनी. All right. So this is making of the Constitution and Nehru's domestic policy. The British had already played an underhand game. They were prepared for every eventuality where the India as an independent country will collapse. So they made such conditions and such a framework and quoted so many different types of antiquated, means decades old, 3 decades old demography. So, which means the 1931 data of the ratio between different ethnicities was being used. So all of these maneuvers, they were done by the British. That the Muslim should have adequate safeguard. And now the question is, why do they need the safeguards if they already have Pakistan? Technically, and in the spirit of the partition, if Hindus and Sikhs left the country, the Muslims should also have gone back to Pakistan. And Calcutta should have been, West Bengal should have been clear of Muslims. So this was the spirit of the partition. But the Muslims who had asked for partition did not leave. So the only people who were in Pakistan and remained in Pakistan were the Muslims who were already there. And they got estates of Hindus and the shops of Hindus, businesses, everything. So now why was this Muslim specific safeguards? This was deliberate because they knew that Gandhi had already given a word to Jinnah that he will look after the Muslims left in India, which means Muslims were going to live in India. So had there been no Muslim left in India, what's the need for this kind of provision? That means it was assumed by all parties. And Gandhi and Nehru directly responsible. A, they agreed. B, they personally went to different railway stations and different places, begging them to stay here. So Gandhi's hidden hand sweeps away the rights of the majority. Right away, when you are safeguarding one minority or another minority or another, then the total share of the total pie remains much less for the majority. And very soon, second-class citizens, Hindus became in their own country second-class citizens. Everything is for the out of the pie. And we will see some of the amendments which apparently when the constitution was made, it was not as disastrous. It was in the spirit of Hindu roots also. So in the Constituent Assembly, these preconditions were imposed by the British that the cabinet mission statement will be accepted, and everything has to work around within that framework. Indirectly elected representatives. Now, this is important. Who were a member of the Constitutional Assembly? These were not representatives, but the Congress Party workers and some other fringe parties, their representatives who were not elected. They were just leaders of different parties. Muslims, Anglo-Indian, and Sikhs received special representation in the Constituent Assembly. So preamble says, we the people of India. People solemn resolve, now this is the language, secure its citizen as justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. Assumes the dignity of the individual and the unity of the nation. Now, this is an important kind of why I'm doing this. The issue of nation, that Rahul Gandhi is going all around the world, and in his usual way of foolishness, he is claiming that India never was a united nation. So that is why in the language of and this luckily escaped the amendment. So it still is the unity of the nation and dignity of the individual, which means every human being, regardless of anything, will enjoy these recourses under the Constitution. Now, this is from the original Constitution. The people of India, the government is not constituting itself. The people of India having solemnly resolved into a sovereign democratic republic. Now, these are key words, and they have also highlighted it. And to secure to all citizens justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, and hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves. Who is giving to ourselves? People, this Constitution. So the most important word here is sovereign democratic republic and the people of India who are making this Constitution and giving to themselves. And government is just auxiliary part. Somebody has to manage it and the government is there. But the Constitution means people, and it's an agreement between people. Now, under the fundamental rights, this picture is given. And this is the Pushpak Viman, and this is Ramchandraji Sita, Hanuman. Probably it is while they were going to Lanka to fight or something. But in any case, this is Shri Ramchandraji's picture. So at that particular moment, they understood that a Hindu tradition is there, and there were more than those pictures. There were quite a few pictures. So the draft resolution was prepared. All powers, authorities, sovereign India, constituent part, organs of government are derived from the people. Again, derived from the people. So guaranteed and secure to all the people, justice, social, economic, political, equality of status, opportunity before the law, freedom of thought, expression, belief, faith, worship, occasion, all of these. Adequate safeguards to minorities, backward and tribal areas, and depressed culturally. Maintain the integrity of territory of the republic. Now, this part is for the government, that their main job is to secure the borders and maintain law and order. So it is their other job is not social engineering or promising everybody the same outcomes. It cannot be done. and it is just non-violence. Non-violence does not enter, and non-alignment. These things are not entering the Constitution, because their primary duty as per the Constitution is to secure the borders and prevent lawlessness. And these are the only two primary functions which is going to protect the Constitution and the people um, eh, who have given to themselves that Constitution. So now the question arises, who is sovereign in the preamble? People. Now the question is, have they been sovereigns? Gandhi installing Nehru was the first infringement of the Constitution, because he was neither elected nor he represented the people. He owed no allegiance to the country and its citizens. So all of those people who were making the Constitution, a lot of them were patriots, most of them were, and lawyers also. So stipulation was that referendum will be held, because Rajendra Prasad refused to sign the Constitution. He was at that time chair of the Constitution Assembly, and he refused to sign. And then his objection was that where are the people? They have not agreed yet. So his idea was that it should be put down to people for referendum, and when it is agreed by, then it should be implemented, not before that. So Nehru said, okay, we'll get it done. Let us start the government and implement. And he, of course, he never meant to have referendum, and he never had. In fact, his remark was so queer. Later on, when Patel reminded that, hey, what happened to the referendum? And he says, who cares to have the opinion of the cattle? Now, what's the difference between Churchill saying dogs and Nehru saying cattle? So this is how much he cared for the people. So subversion of the Constitution started right away. And within the next 3 years, we will see what will rapidly going to happen. So there will be amendments, new articles inserted, presidential orders, that also, ordinances. And soon the government becomes an octopus. From every side they can, if this side fails, this side will grab. And I'll give you an example of that. This freedom was right away restricted. It was not by an amendment. He simply added a clause, certain words, that speech will be with certain restriction. Now, who decides certain? What are those restrictions, and which were they? Nobody ever specified. This was to contain Hindu voice, because by the time Gandhi died, and there was ban on publications, Hindu publications, Hindu assemblies, social groups, reform groups, and all of them, their papers and publications were banned. And the whole community was held guilty for the crime of Godse. So Brahmins all killed just because Godse was Brahmin. And that shame of killing is still hanging on the Hindus as a community. So if Hitler was a madman, that doesn't mean that Germans have to, for all eternity, they should be having a tag that they are guilty. All Christians were not declared guilty after the war. So these are some of the very important issues that people do not or are not curious to know. What is in the original Constitution, and how did we reach a place where we are not able to come out? In 8 years of Modi, there has not been any amendment, not a single amendment. It's impossible to have an amendment at this point. But at that time, it was easy, and it was done as if, there is no one to answer for. So Indian democracy became a stillborn child. And ever since that, it is on artificial respiration. So on the name of socialism, on the name of secularism, we are going to do this. So every restriction that came with under this label, socialism. You see, socialism means you are denying people with merit opportunities. So this is where they were. And on the name of secularism, this was absolutely a word that Patel was very seriously angry. But as soon as Patel died, he introduced the word socialism. Now it is socialist republic, sovereign republic. And secularism was later added by Indira Gandhi in 1975. So constitution becomes a joke. And certain people are privileged for eternity. There's no time limit, there's no restriction. And then he moves to the parliament. Hindu code bills, which means Muslims are independent. They decide their own social system and social justice. But Hindus, code bills, Hindus had to be governed. Their marriage ceremony, inheritance, property regulations, every single aspect of their life comes under Hindu code bills. So they can be attacked for just breathing in India. Right to property. This was infringed. Jamindari system was abolished. That was the right thing to do. But then that does not mean that people cannot own more than X amount of property. You see, this is right to property means that Jamindars will not be exploiting the tenants. That doesn't, they will give equal rights to the tenants to own the share, or they will be shareholders in the crop. That doesn't mean that the right to property is gone, and rent control. So from now onwards, 1950 onwards, they said the landowners, the households will not be able to increase their rent, the owners, landlords. And then nationalization of the companies. Now these are private companies belonging to people for 2-3 generations. And if you nationalize them and give them some compensation, that compensation is not enough because their livelihood is gone. So all of these things with one or other law, as long as Patel was alive, and unfortunately he died in 1950, a Hindu code bill were introduced. Parliament rejected. Twice the parliament rejected. Then Nehru came with the idea that let us split it into 4. So he made 4 different bills and introduced, and they were passed. Muslim law was not touched. Christian law was also not attached. But Christians voluntarily agreed that there is monogamy, and constitution prevails in the property rights. So now judicial recourse. This is another important point that everybody at this point should be aware of what was in the judiciary, who was appointing the Supreme Court, and who was to whom were they answerable. You see, right now it seems that Supreme Court is above everything. They are the God for the nation, they are the God for the people. The executive is under them, legislature is under them, constitution can be misinterpreted, the minority can be pleased, There is nepotism. You appoint me. One of them, Chandrachud, he appointed Kripal. Kripal appointed Chandrachud's son, and then his son appointed Kripal's son as Chief Justice. It was a joke. So, in the original constitution, what is mandatory? That the president, on the recommendation of the executive, will select a Chief Justice. After that, the Chief Justice, with consultation and concurrence of the president, will be able to appoint other justices and judges. Very clear cut. So the power is with the president, and the president acts on the advice of the executive. So, and that is exactly what is in America. What is happening in America? America, the president is nominating the justices, any justice. It goes to the Senate for approval. There's a whole nasty rounds and rounds of hearings for and against. And eventually the person is either approved or not approved. But he is answerable. There is a process in place. And then the rest of the judges, all the judicial heads, they are democratically elected. So who are they answerable? To the people. If after 4 years, 5 years, they are not capable of giving proper judgments or interpreting the law, they are shunted out. Here in India, the Supreme Court justices are for their life. You see, for life, nobody. And if a younger person is elected, like this one recently, he's a very young person. He'll be forever in the Supreme Court, presiding here, presiding there. This is a disaster. So the judicial recourse is denied. There is absolutely no justice for the common people. People are lingering in the cells forever, waiting for the arraignment. Now, this is a joke. So, what is judiciary doing these days? They are protecting the powerful. In the middle of the night, they'll open the session court will start, and they are powerless to protect the poor because their hands are bound. So now this was the brief synopsis of what were the rights given and how they were bypassed. And now Gandhi-Nehru duo created this framework along with the British. And I'm just quoting this from Mark Twain. He said it in the sense of religion. He said, when a con man meets a fool, religion is born. So I put it down, this Gandhian cult is born by replacing the millennia-old tradition, democratic traditions in India, because Gandhi met Nehru. Indian democracy carries the burden of this original sin, that the cult is born, and nobody can question the cult. Even now, anybody who says Gandhi and not Gandhiji, they look at him, what fool is that? He has no respect for Bapu. So Sardar Patel's death was a boon for Gandhi, and he was gleeful. Nehru's total control of the parliament. Now, parliament realized, members of the parliament realized that either they are in or they are out. So the best thing is be sycophants. Whatever Nehru says, agree. After all, he knows the best. Whereas he did not know the best. He did not know anything. And so in order to stay there, you have to listen to Nehru and echo the same thing. So in 1950, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee questioned the Article 370, and he dared go to Jammu Kashmir. And he was arrested and he died there within 3 days. Why? Because he required a visa. Now the question is, how did the question of visa arise? Jammu and Kashmir ceded, and that is where the restrictions started. You see, he got rid of Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, who was in good health and went there. So this is how he got rid of Mahavir Tyagi. He made his life so much miserable by questioning every motive that he resigned. And he was a very able man. And then Ambedkar, as a law minister, he says, I cannot go along as a lawyer with this kind of things that you are doing. And he resigned. And after that, Ambedkar thought that he should have been part of the parliament and he can do better for the country than outside. After that, he was never given the chance to be a nominee. Naturally, he was denied the next two elections any recourse to be part of the parliament. And this is how he paid for his champions, the real freedom fighters, and real patriots who wanted who were well-wishers of the country. Now, amendments. Amendments are several ways of doing. One of them is the regular way. 2/3 of the parliament and 3/4 of the states, they have to agree. Now, at that time, the states were ruled by Congress, and Parliament itself has unopposed kind of majority. So it was so easy. And every now and then, the presidential order would be promulgated, and Article 356 would be invoked. What was the purpose of that? To declare president. Now, this is a very interesting point, that in 1955, when the Mudri, even earlier than that, in Kerala, the communists came in power. That was the very first government made in elected government in Kerala. And they started curtailing the absolute rights of Christian churches and schools, especially the schools. Those people went to Nehru and said that our minority rights are infringed. And what minority rights? Everybody is subject to audit, internal as well as external, and everybody has to pay their law, pay the taxes, and everybody has to give opportunities to the faculty in a proper meritorious way. None of these things are done. So the Christians went 5-6. And Nehru wrote such a letter that it is impossible to believe that any sane person would do that. And the people who went there, they mentioned later on among themselves that what the British could not do for the church and for the schools, Christian schools, Nehru has done. So, I mean, these are kind of things which are irritating. So the First Amendment came, the First Amendment was Jamindari system. Third Amendment was further restriction on property rights. And then Fourth Amendment, reservation. Eighth was extension of the reservation. Now, Eighth Amendment meant that you can expand the categories and you can extend the limit. Extend the time period. Originally, there were two categories, the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. and they were economically backward all through. So they were the beneficiaries. So now the government can expand into the list any minority at their own, whim, or to please somebody for the vote banks. And then the term limit, which was supposed to be 10 years, was extended another 20 years. And after that, nobody cares. It is a permanently plastered on the government of India and on the constitution. Nobody can touch it because there will be civil war. So such is the damage done by Nehru. So then there is 26th Amendment. 8th Amendment also started nationalizing of companies. So this is another intrusion on the property rights. And this reminds me, in 1962, when this 8th Amendment came, I was under training in Delhi. And part of my touring was in a place called Narela. It is a few miles from, some distance from Delhi. The electric company there were two electric companies, and they belonged to my grandfather and his brother. Rai Sahib Gurcharan Das Khosla and his brother Mulk Das Khosla. So under this 8th Amendment, Arjun Singh was the Minister of Human Resources and other resources, and he said that we are going to nationalize public utility companies. So they approached, by the time my grandfather and his brother, they died. And then there were the two brothers who were owning, working for the shareholders, Iqbal Khosla, and the other was Hari Krishna Khosla. And by chance, I was at that time for 3 days trip to Narela when this was going on. And so Arjun Singh approached and he said, we'll give you compensation and also the residents. So you give us the company because we are nationalizing. Now, these people said that, no, this is our place, this is our parents' place, and we are not going to sell it. And very interesting part was narrated by Iqbal to me, that Arjun Singh said that, hey, listen, today we are offering you compensation. Tomorrow we are going to confiscate you. You won't get a penny. And he also said that Ravan had 20 arms and 10 heads. The government of India has hundreds of hands and hundreds of heads. If we don't get you this way, we'll get you this way. So you get it this way in your own interest. And of course, they got company. What I'm saying is the high-handedness and where is the democracy? It died as soon as Nehru was selected as Prime Minister. The government did become octopus. Why were these amendments necessary? How did it become so easy to amend the Constitution? Hundreds of them. In 250 plus years, I guess that is as old as American Constitution is. How many amendments are there? I guess 27. Now, we have hundreds of them in a short period of history, let us say 60 years. Why were members of the parliament so compliant? That I already explained. Who were the targets? Obviously, the big Hindus, jamidars and landlords and mm, public utility companies, owners, and this way. So India's future now depends on these answers. Why were these necessary? How did it become so easy? Why were members of the parliament so compliant? Who were the targets? So if we can answer these questions satisfactorily, we will be able to move to some solutions and get the answers. So having said that, I personally feel that it is very hard to amend the constitution now. Even a simple, unless the judiciary is reformed. And accountability of the judiciary is absolutely crucial. So two things are to be established which were relevant then and they are relevant today. One was that the borders should be protected and the citizens should be protected. The second was judicial recourse. And India is a nation indivisible, right? And if fools are talking in foreign countries, going there and saying that India is a unit of states, union of states, and it is not a nation. You see, the fool doesn't know the meaning of the word Rashtra, which is even mentioned in the Vedas. That is what India is. And similarly, the power of the Supreme Court, which is not letting any law go through. Some or other person will come because the system has completely been corrupted. Through various amendments, they got rid of the National Advisory Committee, Judicial Commission for examination and appointments. That was there, but it was during Indira Gandhi's time, it was bypassed, curtailed. So half the power was with the executive, half the power of appointment was with the Supreme Court, the current club of the judges. Still half and half, and president is the overruling. Then another amendment came just before Modi was going to be, his election was going to be successful, and he was going to be prime minister. Hurriedly, this thing was a new amendment was made, which got rid of the executive branch. Now the question is a constitutional question. Is judiciary totally above law, or is it answerable? In America, it is at the head, it is answerable to the Senate, the legislative, as well as the executive. And at the lower levels, it is accountable to the people. In India, it is not answerable to anybody. So it is you appoint me, and next time I'll appoint your son. And it is a give and take going on. And it is so badly manipulated that the complaints that come, they are handled in a kind of roughshod manner. So this Shaheen Bagh, Supreme Court did not take any decision. Actually, it was an executive matter. It was foolish to hand it over to the judiciary, but the Delhi government did that. So every time there is a new law which somehow or other infringes the right of any minority or any powerful person, there comes a question of independence of judiciary. To what extent is that independence? So somebody has to solve this problem. Otherwise, Modi's all the plans will not work out, because the national register is being questioned. The educational reform is bringing back the temples and giving them the independence from the government. That was a simple parliamentary act in 1954, and nobody is able to touch it. Why not? Because the judicial interference is there. And why only Hindu temples are under such monitoring and control? Because Hindu code bills are according to the temple traditions. And temple traditions should be altered to within the limits of the Hindu code bills. So this is the sad situation. It is for the next generation to figure out the solutions. And if you have any questions, this is today's presentation. Okay. What happened now? What did we do? Okay. Full screen. इसको अब कैसे करना है?
Yeah, you can start the question and answer.
स्क्रीन को बड़ा कैसे करें?
ठीक है, 1 मिनट.
ये
Kamlesh ji.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Nandi. Nice, I'm getting a lot of information which I never knew. I thank you very much for exposing the truth, which is hidden so badly, hardly anybody knows. Now, my question is, you have mentioned there are so many kind of manipulation faults, but who is supposed to take the lead in this matter? As a common man, I cannot take. I can do practically nothing. But who should be taking the initiative to change this kind of mismanagement of our constitution?
You see, my trust is to make people aware. Right now, most of the people, all of the people, majority, does not know these nitty-gritty. Where did we start? What was at that time? And where have we fallen? First of all, I am educating everybody, or at least giving them the developments, evolution of Indian democracy, right? As per Ambedkar, this democracy constitution is not rooted in Indian traditions. That is Ambedkar said. That don't call me the father of the constitution, because I did not make it. And it is neither relevant nor rooted in Indian traditions. So that is what started. So most people did not agree with that constitution. Now, the way the constitution was manipulated year after year by the same dynasty, and they knew that Hindus will be hating them, at least most of them, the best thing is to divide them. So they have made 3,600 categories, Hindu Shaivites, Hindu Lingayat, Hindu Jains, Hindu this, Hindu that. So we are fragmented and we are cornered. What does a cornered person does? He is cornered from every angle. His best thing strategy is to face a wall and just be sticking to the wall, because the wall is not going anywhere and I am safe. That is the usual psychological process. And this is how Hindus have been living. Now, there are so many roadblocks. One of them is that there are too many, about 100 plus political parties, right? And each one of them is a nuisance. Then the judiciary is expanded from 8 people now to 34. So packing up the judiciary, Supreme Court, is another way of tilting the system in the favor of the powerful groups. You see? So unless we go layer by layer, how did things go wrong? When did things go wrong? And now here I am. How do I go up? So, I mean, as far as I am concerned, unless Hindus are united and they think like a community, think like a team, think like a nation, and be proud of their heritage. So at the moment, they don't know their heritage. They don't know who invented zero. They don't know how did the Indians knew how to place a circle of the same square footage into a similar kind of square. The area is the same because that is how Havan kunds are made, the round thing in. So what I'm saying is that there is a multiple issues which need first to be brought to the attention of the people. We are not aware of them. If I am not talking boldly and spreading the word, and you are not participating, and you are not spreading the word, then you see giving good wishes every day and passing on suvichar, good thoughts, that's meaningless. We have to agree to be serious at some point, and we have to think more than for 3 seconds. The message comes forward, delete, case closed. You have to go and build 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and put your heads together. So this is a nation's responsibility. It is not an individual. My job is to create books, educational material. This is an educational material. So far, I have yet to see any Indian news line, online paper, or any talk show host invite me about the book. Even though everybody, many of them know. They are waiting for me to send them from here to India a signed copy. So that is the pathetic mentality of Indians. So I really have no solution for that. But I do hope that people share this information. I give elaborate information as far as I am concerned, and to the best of my ability. And it is up to the younger people to, have a meeting at the house, and don't open the alcoholic stuff before the meeting is over, because
so, Kamlesh, do you think that VHP or RSS has take the initiative to kind of take this issue into mainstream? And if you have any suggestions for them to take it up?
I have taken up. I have spent 30 years here, being in the Hindu Mandirim Conference, been there, VHP Shivers, camps, temple organizations. You see, people are not receptive. They think that our job is to teach Hanuman Chalisa to our children. And they don't have the mindset to first understand the rationale of things. Why people do not chant Hanuman Chalisa when they grow up, even in India, don't remember, because nobody explained them the rationale of it. Who is Hanuman? And who are we praying to? So this is one example. And the same thing. How did people don't know the Constitution? The basic points. You see, as a teacher, if you are unable to teach the students, it is not the student's fault. It is the teacher's fault that I failed to explain properly. And everybody has to wear the hat of a teacher. If the parent is there, the parent is a teacher. So let us bring out the short kind of messages and make them aware of it. But it has to start in India. And BHP is totally politicized and self-serving. Self-serving. Okay, my son will go and get a job in the political establishment. So useless people. RSS is very dedicated, but they are fighting with tags, fascist and Hindutvavadi. My next research paper is on what is Hindutva. And somehow or other, even scholars are saying, we are devoted Hindus, but we don't believe in Hindutva. It is like saying that I am a human being, I don't believe in humanity. I'm a person, I don't have a personality, I don't believe in that. You see, this is the kind of nonsense people talk at random without going into the linguistic of it or the rational of it. So you see, at this point, it's a fight. And one person cannot be fighting at every front. And fight is usually frustrating. So do something which you can do. What I am doing is because I can do. I can research and I can teach and I can speak out. That is where I am. Initiative has to be taken by young parents to teach their children their responsibilities, duties. It has to be in India. Forge a nation. And Modi and Yogi are trying their best. And hopefully, if there are some solutions immediately, without attacking the judiciary, just suggesting that who are you accountable to? Who is going to challenge your existence and validity? And why should be permanent? Your position should be lifelong. So these three questions, and bring it in the parliament for in the nationwide campaign, that they should be accountable. Let us see the constitution of France. Let us see the constitution of America. And let's see who they are accountable. So let's do something similar. And what was in the original constitution? Where are we now? Why did it degrade to this extent? So these are serious questions, and it requires serious thought.
See, Kamlesh, now, maybe there is one thing that may be a possibility, say like, sending a petition to the president, all these petitions that are sent for different issues, human rights issues.
What your petition is, the president already knows. And the president knows the limitations, and they are working through those. Pradeep ji, आप कुछ कहना चाहते हैं? Pradeep ji? Sorry.
Now, yeah, I agree with, whatever you said. And one, more important thing that people recite Hanuman Chalisa in temples and go ring the bells. That's, good. But more important thing, and which is more, needed in this time, is to teach about Hinduism, being vocal about Hinduism. And it is not being defensive. It is going to be an offensive. Because in US only, I'm seeing so many people attacking Hinduism and Hindus from every corner. And most of the people are trying to be defensive. And that is the reason that we are not, propagating our knowledge, we are not propagating our religion, and we are not even telling the truth about the Hinduism. And as you said, yeah, it is certainly, a problem that in US, when I speak to people in, their language, I can speak Hindi, I can speak Bengali, but people try to talk to me in, English. It is, not our, Hindu language. So there is a lack of, unity. They know Hindi. I know Hindi. And they're trying to talk to me in, English. That's, such.
Yeah. There is one more question.
Something.
So,
yeah.
But that is not the problem.
Yeah.
First of all, Hindu is not an ism. Right away, we face. The moment we use the word Hinduism, we do not know what Hindu is. So Hindu is a dharma. It's a cosmic reality. How we adjust to it, that is dharma. So it is not ism. So unless we understand it rationally, we'll be always on the defensive. It's like any other.
कमलेश जी एक चीज मैं कहनी होगी वो ये है कि we need to say Hinduism is a solid religion. It has principles.
It is not a religion. First of all, religion.
No, I have to say that. If I don't say it is a religion, then we cannot fight other religions. That is the point. People say everything is allowed in Hinduism. Beef is allowed. This is allowed. No, it is not allowed. Hinduism has principles. And if you don't follow that principle, there is no Hinduism. Yeah, you are not Hindu if you don't follow, principles laid down by Hinduism. It is a solid religion. It has, solid principles. And people are trying to make it too flexible. Making it too flexible is trying to destroy it. Communists use this, stuff. It is too flexible. Okay, you can do anything in Hinduism. No, you cannot do. You cannot eat beef in Hinduism. Cow is our mother. Yeah, you cannot eat it. You eat it, you are not a Hindu anymore. That is how we have to say. In Islam, everything is strict. Muslim, okay, can give a fatwa. You are not a Muslim if you don't do this thing. You eat pork, you are not a Muslim. And
there is a question.
Okay, you are fine, you are Hindu.
And there is only 1 minute left. May I take a question from Shalini? Please unmute yourself. Yes.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Thank you for your inspiring speech. I'm from Jammu, Kashmir, particularly from Jammu region. I teach in a college. Like you were saying that the youngsters will have to do something about it. I have taken over my heritage club of my college and cultural club. And through that, I take my students to places, important temples, old temples and forts, so that they realize, what are their roots, what are their origins, what kind of glorious history once we had. So slowly and gradually, we are trying to bring subtle changes, because students from other religion, they are very much aware about their faith, but it is the Hindu students who are a little away from their dharma. If I'm using the word correctly. So, and through cultural practices also, we are trying to promote ethnic culture, original culture of our place, so that students feel a sense of pride, because here the Dogras were warriors, basically, they were very brave people, and still most of the generals and people in the army, they have protected this land for so many years and centuries. So we try to instill a sense of pride in them, that you belong to this community and you have to uphold that pride. So this is a little effort which we are doing from our side.
Very proud. If you get in touch with me via email and give me your address, I will guide you in 20 minutes how you can teach a child the basics of Hindu Dharma, which that person will never forget. So that is my guarantee. If you give me a child for 20 minutes, and if you want to have a face-to-face meeting for 20 minutes outside these sessions, I guarantee you I'll give you in 20 minutes the very essence of Hindu Dharma, to which nobody ever can answer. No religion has a leg to stand. Okay, so that will
Sure.
be separate. Unity and Dharma itself, and where do we go? Okay, so
Sure, ma'am.
So,
Sure.
Kamlesh ji,
Hanji,
still we are not solving the issue about reforming the constitution and judiciary outreach,
I
So-
cannot solve.
Yeah.
I said it is the next generation sitting in India. Our job as elderly people is to make them aware. You see, all these 50 years of experience and reading and researching, thousands of pages, I am just able to create awareness.
So,
And activism is a whole different thing. And that you army find out people in India.
no, see, Kamlesh ji, as you teach about Hindu Dharma to youngsters, you should also teach them how to be active to protect their rights,
Yeah.
in the
First of all, I want to give them the concept so that for life, their entire life, they are Hindus. You have to make them, give them conviction in something irrational, irrelevance. This is the only dharma which is relevant and which is cosmic reality. You cannot alter it.
But
You can learn how to fit into it, but you cannot alter what is anantam, infinite, and cosmic reality. We are just caught in a twirl of time and place, and we do our duty in that. But in the entire cosmos, and the dance of energy and consciousness, that is what dharma is. And we are the audience, and we are the actors. So we are what Shiva's Nataraj is. So that is a separate kind of thing. And I have done many sessions on in dharma itself. So make a small group and let us just talk about that. But as far as this question is concerned, that what should we do about the constitution? I can put it in paper and give a few suggestions, as I have given, that fix the accountability, and the president can do it. Let's have guts to ask, who are you going to be answerable? You cannot be answerable to yourself, and you cannot be appointing yourself, right?
yes, see,
Somebody has to appoint, and somebody has to be responsible for it. The
so
decision.
Kamlesh ji, this is actually, this is reforming constitution, in my understanding, is part of the Hindutva too. We are trying to protect the dharma.
No,
Otherwise, somebody else and come and politically they kind of run over us. So whenever
Right.
you teach
right
any
now we are on the defensive. How to protect ourselves from the current government setup?
yes, see, that
How
is
to fight the system,
yeah,
right? System.
yes.
So leave aside Hindutva. That is a dharma is a personal issue, and leave it out of the realm of that. Because the focus cannot be diverse. Focus on one thing. Fix this. Fix the constitution, fix the system. And
So-
fixing the Hindu Dharma, understanding of it, that is a separate issue. Let us deal it with in a separate way. Mixing two together, it becomes like, our fight is with other ideologies. We are fighting the communist ideology, we are fighting the Christian ideology, we are fighting that cult. That won't work. So leave aside Hindu Dharma out of the battle, which is purely political.
No,
Hindus
see,
are victims.
like Sai Deepak is, talking about the temple control, politically. So they are trying to use politics to control our dharma, to control our dharmic, ideologies and everything. So this is, I think, is a part of the Hindutva we call, and we have to fight necessary in the political arena also to protect our dharma.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So whenever you teach any small organization or big organization, when you teach Hindu Dharma, you also mention that this is how our Dharma has been curtailed and abused and restricted. So that has to be removed. And
I have already done that. There are
And-
YouTube lessons are there. How to teach, how to be a teacher of Hindu Dharma. There are 8 sessions of that. They are already on YouTube. It's if nobody wants to read them.
So we can tell everybody in that organization to send a letter to President and the Prime Minister office saying that this is what is not right. You have to reform the
Don't go
constitution.
there. Go to first your own family and do what is doable.
Okay.
Don't expand your realm. I am doing what is doable. If I go to all kind of utopian ideas, my life is not that long.
No, that is that is very understandable. It's not one man's job, and this needs participation by everybody, in the society.
We will make those Hindu Dharma lessons, how to teach, and what is the basics. I'll ask Rajiv ji to put it in the public domain. I don't know where they are. They are on my Google Drive or something needs to be done to bring it up.
Okay.
So if he does that, you can all, they are self-explanatory.
Yeah. Okay.
See them. Okay. So.
Yeah, Rajiv ji is actually doing a great job.
Oh yeah.
If we just
tireless, selfless.
Yeah. I really wonder sometime, and he is the person who can motivate others too, and he definitely motivates me, and we can start the process, to present about this to the president and the prime minister, if he is, has some time to do that. Yeah.
My job is first to reach the family, the community, and the rest is step by step. There are always building blocks.
Yeah, surely.
Never start from the third step of the ladder. You always start from the first step. So.
Okay. I think we are done for the day. So again, in 2 weeks, we'll again meet up and continue.
Yeah. Thank you, Kamlesh.
Thank you, everybody. Namaskar.
Hearing from